Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Tuesday, May 26th, a fairly significant day in history. Dunkirk started today. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band was first released today. Dracula also released today. And so to celebrate all that, we're talking about Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, Apple's latest thriller, comedy, drama, whatever you want to call it.
Mystery.
Yeah, mystery too. And I just want to point out, like, these titles from Apple, which have been coming out like for the last couple of years, Physical, Still Up, and Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, Lessons in Chemistry, they all have like sexual undertones. Like it's clickbaity titles where people will jump in there thinking, like, I assume that there's going to be at least some audience members clicking on Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, expecting to get like a 357 or whatever that titled Netflix movie is, like something super, super saucy.
It's not just that. Also, just the rise in kind of OnlyFans content in TV shows
They
or
even mention
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans in this.
OnlyFans adjacent content like Euphoria season 3, I know has dealt with it. Sydney Sweeney's storyline, and then Margot's got money troubles also.
Right, but that's where like the advertisements for those clearly are pushing towards that message. While with Apple, it doesn't bother doing that in its ads. It's just in the titles.
Yeah, but I do know that, like, with Physical, Rose Byrne, the poster for it, she's looking, like, seductively at the camera. I understand what you're saying. This specific title came from David J. Rosen, the creator of this. He said a couple years ago he got a spam email that was entitled Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed, and then he wanted to use that specific title to scam the spammers.
Yeah, suffice to say, like, the show isn't targeted at just sex, sex, sex. Now, there is, in the first couple scenes, we see the main character getting off to a guy on a
Trevor,
sex chat.
right?
And in the second episode, Trevor is also sleeping with another dude. So there are sex scenes, but it's not like a sex-centric show, if that makes sense. It's about a divorced mom who's going through a lot of shit. Like, her name is Paula. She's played by Tatiana Maslany.
Yep.
And she finds herself in deep water when this dude that she's been paying to sex chat with tries to scam her. And then that dude ends up murdered, and she becomes the main suspect. The real killer is after her. And when the story leaks, because she works for a journalistic outlet, she could lose her job. She could lose custody of her daughter. And so episode 1 is called Magnets. Episode 2 is called YABA. We're going to talk about the cast, the characters, creators and production, plot and feasibility, comparisons, reception and rating. And we're just going to knock this one out real quick.
Yeah, so let's go with the cast. So Tatiana Maslany and Jake Johnson, this was interesting to me. They have never worked together, but they are in the same type of communities.
Huge body of works from the both of them.
Comedy Bang Bang and Marvel. She's She-Hulk and he is Spider-Man in the Spider-Man film. So it was very interesting that this was the first time that they had ever worked together.
Right. So Tatiana Maslany, who plays Paula, she has been in the industry forever. Ginger Snap, she was a kid. Orphan Black, that was her real breakout in the early 2010s, where she got to play like a dozen different versions of herself. Yeah. It's like an actor's or actress's dream job, I would assume.
And she got an Emmy for it. Yeah.
So yeah, since then she's kind of been maybe not a household name, but like huge she's been in Perry Mason. She was She-Hulk, like you said. She was most recently in Star Trek for just like a bit role, but like playing the main character's mom in like the first scene. And so I guess she's playing mom characters now. But Paula is an interesting one because it's not like the audience is 100% in her camp. In fact, my question is, like, is Paula even a good mom?
Right.
She's represented in these 2 episodes as being very erratic, as being very much a bad driver. She commits road rage like several times. She's abrasive to a lot of people. She's streaming porn from the bathroom or streaming like the sex chat that she has from the bathroom while she's at work. And like, she does love her daughter. I believe that. And in fact, she dances with her for like TikTok videos and stuff. But there's a real question of whether or not we should be really supporting that Jake Johnson's character, Carl, her husband or ex-husband, doesn't get some more custody than she deserves.
Well, Carl, by the end of the first episode, doesn't he threaten to take away Hazel completely because of how Paul is acting?
Carl and his lawyer team and Mallory, the person he's dating now, they all sort of want the best for Hazel, and they see Paula as this figure of chaos. Like, they don't know whether or not she's trustworthy. So you don't necessarily have to think of Jake Johnson as a villain here. He does get very perturbed with her over the course of 2 episodes, but you kind of understand why, because in the first episode, when Paula is being blackmailed by this sex chat worker for money,
Yeah.
then that sex chat worker starts to call around to everybody he knows that she knows. So he ends up talking to Hazel. Ends up talking to Carl. And obviously, that's going to raise red flags when things are already so.
What's he saying? What's
He's
he
saying your wife has to like get her act together and call me back because she owes me money or something like that. And instantly Carl makes the connection like, what are you sleeping with this random dude and he's scaring our daughter? Like Jake Johnson is funny because he floats. We've seen him in New Girl, we've seen him in Minx, we've seen him in The Mummy and Spider-Man. He always plays sort of a funny dude.
Yeah, comic relief.
But he does have an ability to kind of like say something seriously. And so I think he brings a good, like, I think Paula and Carl are believable as exes who are trying to get along. And at the same time, if you have to ask the same question I asked about Carl or the mom, is Carl a good dad? I would say in some ways, yes. He never insults Paula in front of their daughter, which is so key in these type of divorces. You wait until the child is out of earshot, and then you guys have your argument. So that's what he does. Good for him. The other thing is he seems like he's legally, or not legally, but he's able to afford a lot more than what Paula is able to give their daughter. And as sad as it is, that does play kind of a factor when they're deciding custody and who can better like handle a child.
What does
right?
Carl do?
We don't know,
Uh,
but the negatives, I would say, is that he is the one who's brought in another person. So, like, he's dating Mallory, which is very confusing, I would think, for Hazel, who's in third grade, to kind of deal with the fact that her parents are getting divorced, and then Mallory is now this other woman.
The
And he's
actress is
also
married to Beck Bennett.
Mallory's.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really only there for like one scene where she tries to get Paula to admit to drinking when she wasn't. So that was weird. But then there's also the fact that Carl wants to move Hazel to Idaho, which is not something that Paul is interested in. And if you're looking to win points, I would say Paula is in the right because Hazel has her school there. She has her friends there. She doesn't want to be moving to Idaho.
Well, Paula would also have to sign away her rights, right? Like,
I think she would just move. Like,
Really?
she was making jokes about the fact that she didn't want to move to Idaho and, like, make potatoes or something like that. And
so
so,
she would follow Hazel. Okay.
of
yeah,
course,
that-
it's her daughter. And so let's talk about Hazel. Hazel or Hazelnut, because that's what she calls her in the second episode. Is Hazel a good daughter? No. No, Hazel is a third grader. She likes TikTok. Her diet consists of pizza, chocolate pancakes, ice cream, whipped cream, Pop-Tarts. If you think that I'm joking, that is literally all that Paula feeds her daughter in these two
I
episodes.
mean, that kind of
And we
answers the
see
questions about the parents.
Paula also is just scrounging down these Eggo waffles in the first episode because she is so busy on her way to work. And so, yeah, I think that she needs to work on what she's feeding her kid. And then at the same time, Hazel is a very active girl because she is involved in hockey, soccer, dance, taekwondo. So
Four
it's
different
kind of like
things.
the Michael Phelps diet, I assume, is that she needs to burn off that energy. So just load her up with all that
It
sugar.
almost seems like they need to hire Denzel Washington from Man on Fire because of how much stuff she has to probably be driven around to.
Okay. If you say so. It's been a while since we talked about that show. Now let's talk about the real elephant in the room, Trev or Trevor.
Yes,
So
right.
Paula has a bad habit. And that habit is that because of all this stress in her life, she has become sort of addicted to logging into the sex forum chat thing and buying dates with one of the dudes named Trey/Trevor. And she will just talk to him about shit and then she will get off to him. And during one of these so-called dates, he stages what is clearly a fake break-in video where he is kidnapped. Now, I know in real life, this happened in front of a stream at one
Right.
point where there was like a girl who had staged her own kidnapping and a bunch of the followers were trying to figure out what happened to her. I don't even know if that was like sex related, but it did remind me of this.
That was like 1 or 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it made it into the mainstream news. But the point is that when she realizes, because she calls the cops and
Mhm.
she's like, oh no, this guy just got kidnapped. They inform her, no, this is just a scam. You're going to get a call in the next few days asking for money. That's exactly what happens. It's interesting. They ask for $15,000 when she says she's not going to pay it. That's when she starts getting harassed at her work. they start calling Carl, and she straight out says, I know that that your life is not in danger. And he responds with, does it really matter?
So
I'm going to
that's
ruin your life.
yeah, that's how they figure it out. I know when they shot the webcam sessions, they used 2 active film sets and performed the scene simultaneously in real time. That wasn't like something that they did at separate points. But I was wondering because I did see the part where she gets the call. It seemed like they were almost making Travis kind of have a Gus Fring moment where he went from really scared to, oh no, I'm going to be the villain of the story.
Right. And it only happens that one time because the next time she sees him, he's dead. She decides once she realizes that she's being made a fool of, that she and the police aren't going to help, that she's going to pull the old suburban mom, I'm on the case thing. She puts on her music and she tracks him down, geolocating him via the internet.
Reminds me so much of Thelma, the real life story that they made the movie about a couple years ago about the 93-year-old grandma who fell for a scam and then tried to get her money back by doing the same thing, trying to see who it was that stole it.
So instead, when she finds out exactly where he is, she like tracks it down through Mr. Krabs' shack or whatever. It's like a food place. And she finds that he has to be in one of 4 locations. She tells the police won't help. She goes directly to the location. And instead of encountering Trey, she finds his dead body in a
You
bathtub.
mean Trevor? Yeah.
Trey or Trevor. No,
Oh,
no,
Trevor.
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's where the end of the first episode occurs. That's where the pilot ends. And she is literally just on the ground freaking out when she finds out that there might be the killer still in the house.
Well, I think the killer is like stepping up the stairs,
He's
right?
looking to saw up that body. He's going Dexter style, and he doesn't realize that anybody else has intervened in the scene.
So that's where David Gordon Green steps in. Yeah, again, the guy who did Pineapple Express and the Halloween films, also the pilot to Scarpetta, Dickinson, and a lot of comedies. He said doing the Halloween films helped him so much with the horror of the TV series, and I feel like the end of the first episode was the best example of that.
Maybe. I don't really like the first episode all that much, mostly because of like 3 different errors that I think it made. First of all, I know that she isn't rich, like,
Mhm.
and that she has a new apartment and she's trying to get her life in order. And obviously, money is tight, but she has a good job and she's also living in a big city. And so, my question is $15,000 in this day and age isn't that much.
Yeah.
I mean, adjusted for inflation, it's really not that much.
Do
So,
you,
why didn't she just pay the ransom? That's one. That's my first thing.
do you think that they should have said it earlier, like maybe in like the 90s or something when it was,
They should have just
when it
upped
was
the
more?
amount, honestly. They should have said like 90,000, something that gets it to a point where it's like, oh, this isn't worth her time. Because you would think that as a journalist, like detailed, like it looks like she's up for a promotion even.
Yeah, right.
She's paying for a lawyer to take care of her divorce thing. Like she has money. And even if she had to take out a loan to just get this guy off her back, it feels like it would be worth it. But that set aside, there's also the fact that the main character suffers from the case that a lot of main characters do, an inability to defend themselves when questioned by someone who could actually help. So when Carl comes up to her and starts hounding her over the fact that it looks like she's screwing up left and right, that's the time to say, I was on an online dating site. Like she can fudge it a little bit, and I think he'd understand
Mhm.
and be like, I was on an online dating site. I got scammed, and now this person's trying to get money out of me. At least that would give a little bit more credence to what was going on. And I don't think like she freaks out in the second episode saying when Carl would find out that she had witnessed a dead body, that he would use that against her. Maybe. That would track. But the earlier part, before she had seen that dead body, had she just come clean then and said, I'm in the middle of this dumb scam guy. I saw what you had with Mallory and I wanted something like that for myself.
What'd she do instead when she was talking to him?
She didn't say a word. She just and then she said, I have to go. Like it was just
Comes
quietness.
across, yeah, very, very suspicious.
But you see it so much in these shows where it's like, just say something, you know, you could end this right at the beginning. And then there's that cheesy cliffhanger at the end where you're like, they're not going to kill off the main character in the first.
So you weren't interested at all?
Not really. And so it comes down to, again, the money. So think about the streamer's life, right?
Right.
So he makes not just money from her. He's out there streaming every single day, but he's doing this fake kidnapping. So he can't be out there streaming anymore for over that course of that time. So he's losing money there.
Revenue, yeah.
He's also basically killed off any chance that he was going to milk any more money out of her. And she was forking it up. Like she was a good pay her to like whatever. So like he probably could have gotten $15,000 from her over the course of the next few months.
So again, yeah, it just
And
comes
he
down really
lives
to
in
the
the big
amount.
city. So like, was it worth it to ask for $15,000 and then fake this whole thing? It doesn't feel like it equates to the same amount.
Yeah, I know they shot it in Queens, New York, too, so they
Right. He
shot it on
lives in New York
location,
and
yeah.
$15,000 isn't going to do jack shit. YABA, the second episode, it takes all that dumb setup from the first episode and it actually lets a lot of it go. So, things start to sort themselves out and get resolved in a different way than I would have expected.
How so?
Well, I'm about to get
Yeah.
into it. So, instantly they tell us who kills Trey. You know, a lot of shows would have left that up for the mid-season
It was
finale
gonna
or
be,
whatever.
10 episodes, and usually it's by the end of the
But within the
season.
first flashback scene, you learn that he is actually gay. He has a sugar daddy, that he has got these real estate aspirations that he's getting loans for, and that they're in love, but he's also doing this streaming on the side to get more money from it. And then the second scene is the current day where that same sugar daddy breaks in, kills him, and then takes a USB from the fridge, which I assume is because if Trey is so used to blackmailing
Right.
people, he probably tried to blackmail this dude, and that was not the guy that you should try to do that with.
So it doesn't show like, Paula doesn't figure this out at that moment, it's just showing the
It
viewer.
shows us the background to it. He was in the middle of feeding his cat when this guy jumped in, and we see him without the mask this time.
Mhm.
Then we see him outside preparing the saw and stuff just as Paul is pulling up. So that was also a cool scene. It gives us a backflash of how that all went down.
Right.
He walks in there. Paula's phone goes off while she's trapped in the closet. He almost catches her, but she escapes. So finally, we get over the cheesy cliffhanger that she's going to die right then and there. She drives off, but then she leaves evidence behind. Her kids' boots get like knocked off. Her
That's
kids'
always the way it
cleats.
is, yeah.
Yes. And so then she escapes. She's getting hounded by a bunch of different cell phone calls. She has to do soccer practice later that day. And then she just decides, I'm going to go after going to Mallory's to like pick up the new cleats, or the old cleats actually, because the new ones were the ones she left. She then just goes to work. And this is where the question's like, should you have gone to the cops, right?
Yeah, well,
And
my question would be, why would you even go to people that you know? If you were just there and it was such a dangerous situation, why would you even go to the Mallory place? Why would you not just like
well, no, she gets a call from Carl saying, hey, I need her boots. And she says, I don't have them. And then he's like, go pick them up. Mallory's going to be there. You guys talk. And then that was that. But the real question is, she just saw a guy who was murdered,
dead body?
and
Yeah.
she didn't go to the police. Like, she thinks about it, but then she's like, I don't want to get mixed up in this. So she decides not to. And you think, oh shit, as the viewer, this is the thing that's going to come back to bite her. And in the future episodes, 1, 2, 3 episodes from now, she's going to be in so much fucked up shit because of it.
No.
And no, what happens is she gets to work and the police are there. And they're like, we found this body. You either come clean now or we're going to have a problem. And she comes clean. She just straight up tells the cop, who is a fountain of wisdom there, listens to her, and is just like, yeah, no, I get it.
What could possibly be the plot for the next 8 episodes? Because it
It
seems like
gets there.
you were
But that's the
saying
thing.
that.
It's resolving the ones that most shows would fall into. And that's what I liked about the second episode. Also, at the same time, you have her work gossip friends who are just a pair of
Mhm.
goofballs. They are like D and Deedle Dum. One I think is named Rudy, and the other one's named like Jerry.
Right.
And so she spills the bean to this officer, the same one that she had hired to like, or not hired, but conducted this whole thing to try to find Trevor to begin with.
This wasn't Detective Baxter, was it?
Probably.
Okay.
I don't even remember what her name is. But the thing that was funny about that is in most these interrogation type scenes,
Mhm.
I usually am like, why aren't you lawyering up? But in this instance, it made a lot of sense why she wasn't. So I also enjoyed that, where it wasn't just like it took me halfway through the scene being like, oh, maybe she does need a lawyer or something like that. So she's not the main suspect yet. And she's also escaped the killer for now.
Right.
And her kid is like at soccer practice, and she's leading the soccer practice. And then, one thing I left out was that, you know how I said that she just opened up to the police officer? Right after that, even though she was incapable of talking to Carl about anything earlier, she decides to open up to the office gossips. And she tells both of them about the full thing. And
She
what
feels more comfortable with them.
apparently, but one of them decides, the Jerry lady, which
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Gary or Jerry or like however she puts it, but she decides to write an article about the thing. And that's where the cliffhanger is at the very end, is that she is showing that article, I think, to Paula's boss. And Paula's boss is talking about how she might publish it or that she needs a bigger story. Now, this is all like, I'm not sure about that, but that seems to be where it's going. So I think what it's doing is it's reset how the shit is going to hit the fan. But
But, like, the fact that Jerry would hear this, like, very intense story from Paula and then
they were
almost
kidding around
backstab
about it
her.
the whole time, though. Like, it was
But
literally.
but there's a difference between kidding around about trauma and then, publishing a story
I don't
about
think
it.
I'm doing a good enough job explaining how Rudy and Jerry, like their relationship. They were, when they saw that Paul was being interviewed by the police,
Mm.
they were making jokes about the fact that she was like having sex with, is that bestiality, like, or like underage bestiality. It was so weird. They are funny comic relief. They honestly remind me a little bit of like a really bad version of Adam Pally in some stuff that he does, where when he doesn't give a fuck. Like, so yeah, that was the second episode was good for those reasons. I had some one-off moments that I liked. Mallory's quick vindictiveness when she was like, "Oh, but you were drinking last night, right?" And she was like, "I had Hazel last night, and you know that." That was a good moment. The cat, Trey's cat,
Mm.
literally brings his tongue to the neighbor. That's how they find out that Trey is dead.
Did he chew it off or or
I
was it
think
cut off?
that the killer had been interrupted and had probably already cut the tongue off. I don't think the cat went in there and did that itself, but it is cat got your tongue, so, and that's on purpose. And then also they have this other soccer coach named Steve, and he was also calling and annoying Paula during the course of the second episode. And really, there is nothing about Steve other than that he just introduces himself at the end. And that's another moment of comedy. She hurts herself when she's jumping out of the house, out of Trey's
When she
house.
was escaping?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she gets sliced by a tuna can. And that looked like that hurt a lot.
Where on her body?
Just on her arm. And so she uses like kids' band-aids to like try to cover it up throughout the rest of the episode. Yeah, so the second episode I would say is probably a little better. I think the police may still suspect her later on. This could be an Amanda Knox situation where it feels like her being open was the smart move, but then later on it's going to be used against her because she did have the most motive to kill this guy. And at the same time, the killer also knows who she is because he has the kid's boots. And so he
Right.
knows he's going to be able to track her down through Hazel.
There had to be some way that, like, they kept the killer, it seems like, in this show. It's strange because the Siders said that certain scenes of the series could be described as the bear-level tension meets Challengers. And I know Challengers is, like, a very psychological film. But it seems like from what you're saying, it didn't really have that high of tension for you.
Yeah, I don't think this is a super high IQ show. I think it's
Mhm.
just, it is what it is. Tatiana Maslany's a decent actress. Jake Johnson's a decent actor too. But like overall, I'm not too committed to it. It's still falling into a bit of a predictable pattern where it's kind of like Disclaimer, where we're going to watch this woman unravel slowly. The problem is she's already in the past seemed like she's unraveled. And a lot of these decisions that she's making, it's like she's creating her own problems,
Right.
So overall, I would give it 5 out of 10 Maslany's. Uh, Anything else?
Yeah, it has 7 on IMDb, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, 83% audience score, so positive reception, but it depends on where you're looking at. The most mixed review I saw was from Slant Magazine that gave the show 2 out of 4 and said, like you, Tatiana Maslany's commanding presence can't overcome the show's hodgepodge quality.
Yeah, that's sort of where I fall too, but 5 out of 10, that's fairly average.
Okay.
Stop naming your shows these weird, like, sexually charged titles, Apple. Like, you can do better.
Again, this one had more of a reason. He wanted to scam the spammers.
So also, I should say that like the reason that they're named magnets in YABA is that magnets is something that the cop says in the first episode where she's like, good people are like magnets. And bad people tend to like want to draw themselves close to them. And then YABA was like again an acronym on you're a badass. So,
I've never heard that before.
it's like you're a badass, Harry Potter or something. That's what Hagrid says, right? Or that's what Hagrid's going to say in the new one.
And then on Christmas Day, we'll figure out.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.